G'day, guys, and welcome to episode 29 of the Mindful Men podcast. My name is Simon Rennie, and I'm the man behind Mindful Men. In today's episode, I wanted to share a tool that I've been using for sitting with my anxiety. I call it the anxiety arc, and my psychologist introduced this to me a few weeks ago during therapy. And whilst I have his permission to share it with you today, he wasn't able to confirm the source of where it came from. So if you're listening to this or watching it on YouTube and you know where the anxiety arc comes from, please get in touch so that I can reference it in the show notes. Now, to give this all a bit of context, my psychologist showed me this as I've been struggling with anxiety and perfectionist tendencies over the last few months. And if you happen to be listening to this in the future, I'm talking about the first half of 2022. Now, some of the anxiety that I've been talking with my psychologist about has been around me starting my business. I've always wanted to run my own business. And now that I've finished my Masters of Social Work degree, I want to get a move on with this. I want to expand on the work of mindful men and provide a dedicated therapy outlet for men, whether it's for mental health, disability, fatherhood, relationships, or even identity. I want to support men to open up, to get vulnerable and start their healing journey. To get this up and running, I feel like I need to build a website. Now, I'm no tech whiz, but with the amount of free how-to content on the internet, I'm confident that I can give it a good crack. Now, some people might stop me there and say, hey, Simon, you don't need a website to start your business. And I have heard this before, but the perfectionist inside of me would politely disagree. To me, my business needs a website. I started this website at the start of 2022, and come July, I've still got a lot more work to do. Outside of some technical difficulties that I've experienced along the way, something else has been holding me back from finishing the site. Enter imposter syndrome. Despite finishing my degree and doing a great job during placement at a private practice, something in the back of my head is telling me that I can't do it. Things like, what if I fail? Or nobody will want to pay for my services? Or I don't know enough? Or what if a client hates me? The list goes on, but you can kind of get a gist about what I've been thinking about. And this imposter syndrome pops up every time I want to work on the website. But to make matters worse, Mr. Perfectionist is right there too, picking up every little imperfection along the way. And when this happens, I can't help but feel like the website looks like shit and nobody will want to visit it. This cycle has happened over and over again over the last 6 months. And so I've been avoiding it. I've been avoiding completing the website because it creates anxiety for me. And the rationale for this avoidance? Well, if I don't finish the website, I won't have a means to tell the world that my books are open. If I don't have that means, then I won't get clients. And if I don't have clients, I won't fail at running my business. At least that's the logic that I tell myself. So the psychologist introduced me to the anxiety arc. One, because he knows that I like therapeutic tools that are derived from a mindfulness approach. Heck, that's where the concept of mindful men come from. But secondly, because he knows that the more I sit with anxiety, the more I can learn to overcome its crippling effects. Now, the concept is relatively simple and it's easy to use. In fact, since I've learned about it, I've been using it regularly to recognize when I'm avoiding building that website or even avoiding doing something else to get my business up and running. And it works. When I think of the arc, it refocuses me back on the task at hand, or it gives me that inspiration to get started on what needs to get done. So here we go. This is the anxiety arc. Think of an arc shape. I like to think of a rainbow because it's easy to visualize. It starts on the ground, it rises up to a peak, and then after the peak, it falls back down to the ground. And that rise and fall, they're mirrored on each side, and it looks nice and neat like an arc. Now, anxiety is caused by a trigger. And for me, it's been completing this website, but for you, it could be something completely different. Now, once this trigger happens, anxiety rises from the ground. It moves up the arc to that peak in the middle before falling down the other side. When it reaches the end of the arc, back and hits that ground again, the anxiety disappears. And for many people, they can sit with that anxiety all the way through. They can let it rise to its peak and then let it fall again. It might be uncomfortable. It might cause a racing heart or sweaty hands, but they are okay enough to carry on with their day without it impacting too much. But for other people like me, and I've been in this boat now for 6 months with the website, the trigger happens, but the anxiety rises and rises and rises. It feels like the peak will never come, and all of the signs and symptoms of anxiety, they take over and they cause us to retreat. Perhaps it's a day stuck in bed. Perhaps it's a week off of work. Perhaps it's everything crumbling down to the point of needing mental health support. And for some reason, some of us get stuck with this and we simply stop functioning. So, to bring down the anxiety earlier, we start doing avoidance activities. For me, I avoided working on the website. Sometimes this looked like watching TV. Other times, it could be going out with the kids. If I started overthinking it, it might mean having a few beers to numb the excessive thoughts. Now, this last one's not a great technique, but it's what I did. And I know it's what many people out there do. By avoiding what I needed to do, I also avoided the discomfort that comes with sitting with anxiety. And rather than work through the anxiety to finish the website and then start the business to see where it took me, I avoided it altogether. Now, by avoiding finishing the website, I reduced the natural size of the arc. And this includes the intensity and duration of the anxiety associated with it. And whilst I still felt anxious about not completing the website, the avoidance activities that I did shrunk my arc dramatically. Instead of sitting with anxiety across the whole rainbow, I parachuted off the rising part of that arc with the TV or the beers or the shift in focus. And what this did was bring me back down to baseline quicker. And I did this over and over again. But this didn't serve me. I was still anxious about the website. It hovered over me like a big black cloud ready to storm on my head. And in fact, the avoiding actually made my anxiety worse. That inner critic grew louder, almost laughing and mocking me. And I was letting it win. So my psychologist showed me the arc and challenged me to sit with anxiety across the entire arc process. And if that meant powering through the anxiety as I built that damn website and advertised to the world that Simon Rennie's books are open, then that's what I was going to do. It was going to be tough, and the discomfort would be longer than I was when I was avoiding things. But my psychologist showed me how this wouldn't always be the case. He showed me that each time I sat with anxiety through the entire arc, I developed greater capacity to live with anxiety. And each time I did this, the arc naturally shrunk and got smaller and smaller. And over time, and with lots and lots of practice, the discomfort of sitting with anxiety reduces. It becomes less intense and it becomes shorter in duration. Eventually, the anxiety arc looks less like a rainbow and more like a speed hump. We can see it coming, but we're not going to stop. We just brace ourselves, slow down, and drive over it. So there it is, the anxiety arc. To summarize, once triggered, sit with the anxiety and try not to avoid it. But if you do avoid it, recognize that you're avoiding it. Think about what happened and why you chose to avoid it. This is a great self-reflective practice. And sometimes you can adjust your behavior or lifestyle to get rid of those avoidance activities. For example, if you get distracted by Netflix, maybe cancel the subscription for a month. It can be as simple as that. Alternatively, identify strategies that can help you work through the urge to avoid. Maybe a reward system, Sit with the anxiety for longer each day, and at the end, reward yourself. Maybe it's 30 minutes of Netflix. If you're struggling to figure out these things, ask your partner or ask your psychologist or your GP or someone that you're okay with opening up to. But ultimately, keep trying. Sitting with anxiety takes practice, and you will get through it. Now, I've used my example of building this website, but you can use it on anything. You can use it on anything where you find yourself avoiding discomfort. I'm still working on that website, but with the anxiety arc in my toolkit, I've had more focus to work on the website, but also other aspects of the business that I need to get up and running too. And as I said before, it works for me, so I'm going to keep using it. Well, that's it for the anxiety arc. I hope I described it enough so that you could visualize it and that you got some value out of it. As for me, I've got a date with Mr. Perfectionist, and I'm going to purposely make an error on my website to show him that messy action is better than no action at all. Thanks for joining me today. My name is Simon Rinnie, and until next time, stay mindful. If you enjoyed today's episode, make sure that you like it and leave a comment, and then share it with your mates. Also, subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell so that you don't miss a moment of future episodes to come.